Hello. So this is going to be my Keystone final design presentation. All right. So we're same thing that I was last time. Our working title is going to be Betting Against the Gods. A lot of this hasn't changed. It's an asymmetric high stakes stock trading game with vaporwave and Greek mythology. Description of the intended player experience is that it's going to be set in the backdrop of the stock market of the 80s. It is a fast paced, nail biting game about doing paperwork in the financial sector, baby. Oh, yeah. The game is a 4v1 experience where social deduction, good thinking skills, risk management, and perfectionism are key. For the four players, their goal is to try and meet the financial objective of Atlas Investments, a rapidly crumbling hedge fund that will go bankrupt if the player doesn't execute good trades to meet the financial goal needed to keep it solvent. However, the players would be perfectly capable of doing just that if not for the other player, who will be playing as one of the gods of Greek mythology, whose goal is to ensure the players do not meet their goal through whatever means necessary. It's divine intervention, baby. The traders will have to work together as a team to navigate the stock market through basic and intermediate market concepts such as buying and selling, long/puts, commodities, to make just enough money to meet their objective. The god will have to fill out forms that vary in intensity and effect, which will disrupt these trades. The goal will be set by players. The god will have to fill out the forms that vary in intensity of effect while navigating his own needs to answer prayers and meet his own limited capacity of divine ink to stop the players from reaching their goal. The goal will be set by settings the players fill out in the options prior to. Lower goals mean that god players will have access to more intense things later on and have less divine ink. Higher goals will be the opposite. Additionally, players can customize the experience however they want. Design guardrails. So, same thing, player structure. We have four traders who work together to execute trades, stay in compliance, manage hedge funds, predict how things are moving, all while dealing with a constantly moving and chaotic market spurred by divine intervention from the fifth player. Then we have the one god who will have to navigate the monotony and bureaucracy of life in Olympus while filling out various things or doing other actions that might be considered slightly monotonous so as to ensure that traders will finally be bankrupt once and for all. Core interaction forces. This is where things start to get weird. So we have social interaction. So it's two different ways for the god. They have to manage social interaction by dealing with office politics. They have to deal with getting their things approved or denied, and they have to navigate around the minutiae of Olympus and Co. For the players, they have to navigate the stream of tips and interactions they have with non-playable companies. We're going to go about that later as I show you the working prototype of the market system that I have. Risk and reward, the game leans majorly into risk and reward. It's the stock market. You're incentivized to take risky trades. Those trades might not go so well. So emotional tone, it is nostalgia and anxiety. So nostalgia, we're going back to the 80s and 90s for vaporwave, also the golden era of stock market. And it makes the gods wish for a day where they weren't reliant on bureaucracy to enact their will. Anxiety, you're going to see from the prototype that I'll show you, is that this game is going to be very intense. You're going to be stressed during it, but you're going to have a lot of fun. So emotional weight, the game is going to keep a persistent emotional weight throughout the game. There's going to be compliance checks and other such obstacles thrown at the player with the background feeling they are only just a little bit of money to finish the line. World lens. It is mythic and legendary, Greek gods, and bureaucratic. Uh, for the god player, at the very least, they're going to have to navigate around constant paperwork and bureaucracy. But that paperwork and bureaucracy, once it's done, will be pretty dang effective. Market system. This is the current prototype that I have working. I don't really have anything from the god player because I don't know how to make them interact with each other, but it's the core system and it acts as a causal and reactive force to player action. This will be the primary cause of tension throughout the game. We have commodities. I couldn't get them working. We have individual stocks, where it works to counter the commodity system. If the god player disrupts the grain industry by striking a grain facility, the price of grain will go up. The price of that individual stock would go down. So let's just say the god player fills out a form striking a grain facility or whatever. It's randomized, and there's not like these sort of things, but it'll randomly strike a grain facility, well, whatever that's assigned to. That stock will go down even if the grain commodity goes up because grain is now harder to come by, right? Options, we have buying, selling, long puts, long calls, short puts, and short calls. Working right now, I just have short calls, and then buying and selling right now. That's about all I could muster with my limited coding knowledge and Claude. You'll see. Market system maintains the core interaction force of risk versus reward for the player, since there will be a great opportunities with the regular market movements, but ones that can also jeopardize them. For the God player, they have to play God to the market, which has risk and reward. Moving the market too little or too much can compromise the God player. This is since they have limited capacity to fill out forms by a limited amount of divine ink and must answer a certain amount of prayers. Additionally, there's only so much time. You'll see in a second. So the God systems, prayer, God has to fill a quota, and they must fill out a certain amount per day or get penalized with divine ink or a cooldown on the next day. These forms just require the player to draw a signature with their mouse and will move a commodity and a company or two in a certain direction. Divine Ink, it's the primary resource for the God player, and they only have a certain amount to fill out each form with, and certain forms take a little bit more Divine Ink than others. Player runs out, they'll have to fill out a complex form and wait a minute or two to get more. The amount they will get will be determined by a calculation using efficiency of them filling out forms so far, a value that determines how they have been moving relative to market direction, a value determining how the traders are doing, and other factors. And then Divine Ink unused will roll over to the next day, though penalties may be applied if too little is used. Forms, this is primary means of interaction that the God player may have with the broader game systems. Forms are how the God can take action. They will require the player to draw a signature and give a sentence reasoning as to why they are being filled out. An AI system will then reject or approve it. I just thought it'd be kind of funny. We have different forms. We have like 1x. This is small low level stuff. 2x will be allowed after Monday. I don't explain it yet, but this whole thing is structured around like a week, right? It's a week system. So there are 5 days total. And you have to work within those 5 days to either bankrupt the player or if you're to bankrupt the traders, or if you're the traders to make back your quota money. Form 3X can be used to redact info on the traders' reports or audits, making them harder to fill out. Form 4X can be used to leak inside info to the insider. So there's, as I'm going to explain later, there are trader player roles, and one of them is the insider, where they will get different tips. The system that I'm going to show you is actually probably what things would look like for the insider. These systems maintain the core interaction forces of social interaction inversely by making the God player have to deduct what the trader's next move will be. For risk and reward is governed by how player manages the resources and what forms they decide to fill out at a certain time. How these constrain player behavior. So the Divine Ink destroys the potential God player strategy of just spamming forms, while the prayer system forces God into interacting with the market at a level that isn't just interfering with traders. The market system forces both traders and gods to be cunning and outsmart the other. The market is too vast for just one player to fully navigate, therefore promoting pro-social cooperation among traders. They should come up with a unified strategy that can sift through tips, predict the market, and diversify the portfolio. Ultimately, all of the systems are meant to promote a certain play style that forces the player into a high-stakes, high-anxiety game of cat and mouse. Design intent. So what should the player feel? Throughout the course of the game, as I said, it should create a constant sense of anxiety. Traders should feel like they're in a constant race against time, as they'll be taking in more information than they should be able to manage, and thus have to guess what to do. For God players, they should feel like they're constantly having to appease some force, whether it be Olympus bureaucracy or ensuring a form is filled out exactly correctly. They should never feel secure in their ability to undermine the players, yet feel competent enough to be motivated to do it. In other words, they should never feel omnipotent, but they should feel like they have significant power to change things, which should motivate them. Core attention. The core attention of the game should be as such. For God players, it is to balance the ever-growing demands of paperwork, answering the prayers to the different companies on Earth, and a little bit of divine office politics, while attempting to one-up the players. Though very powerful, you should not feel like you can destroy the other players at will. For the traders, it is the constant demands of an ever-changing market, the looming deadline, and the cooperation of with your fellow traders that you should make it an exercising anxiety, but not quite stress. Why the game deserves to exist. The game deserves to exist because it fulfills several niches at once, and it is unique exercise in mechanics and real-world systems with a fun and fulfilling twist. Firstly, it is an asymmetric multiplayer experience that does not involve one player hunting down the other, but rather involves steady market manipulation to undermine the other players. It also has good educational values, as it could be used as a stepping stone to teach a player about how the market and how different events might affect it. Though the game may present these aspects in ways that may be slightly anachronistic to real life, they still are of great value. It also serves an interesting concept. I remove the inspiration side. This is an older slide, but it has several inspirations from the PC indie scene. Core systems and mechanics. Week overview. So we have the week mechanic, right? The game will operate within the boundaries of one 60-minute week. This will consist of 5 2-minute strategy meetings, which will happen before each day. During this time period, trader players will gain info and develop strategy. During this time period, the God player will have the ability to pre-plan his initial disruptions and have access to special and stronger abilities. The game will then transition to a 10-minute day. This is where the players must make their trades. They will have to react as the God player can disrupt the market movements at any time. They will also receive tips and receive notices of audits during that time period. The God player will spend the time answering or ignoring prayers, though they will have to answer a certain amount in a day, keep the market in balance, all while trying to disrupt the other players through events. These events can be good or bad depending on what information they have on the other player and how they are trading. To cause these events, the God player will have to find and fill out paperwork. For instance, the God may fill out Form 2B, authorization for atmospheric discharge, a lightning strike, and it have its to have to sign at certain spots and type up a short reasoning. This paperwork may be denied, which might prevent them from doing it, or may slightly delay the action. Some forms may be easier to fill out than others, but might have less of an effect. Throughout the day, there will be a balancing system in effect to slow down either the traders or the god. For instance, either traders may give the god player access to easier to more powerful forms, or a particularly effective god may give traders access to riskier but more rewarding trades. Traders overview. The traders have fundamental market mechanics to operate throughout the day, commodities, basic stocks, these sort of things. Traders, though, they can make their own trades, have a shared pool of money that incentivizes cooperation and creates tension. Traders must also manage government compliance. Every trade made is recorded in the in-game ledger. The trades will have to double check the audit forms with the ledger, correct mistakes on the audit forms. Though throughout the progress of the week, the traders gain tips as to what to trade. These might be wrong, as the god can influence these tips. Trader overview. The traders will have the different roles with unique abilities. The high roller, they can make big trades. Compliance officer, he has to make sure they're in compliance with the different audit forms. The insider, they're going to get tips. And the analyst is to essentially decipher everything and be kind of like the unofficial group leader, though he has abilities from all three, the other ones. Got it, overview. So, kind of going over what I said earlier. Has an immense ability to enact change, but though he's got an Earth and Olympus, he's just a middle manager. So he has to meet a certain quota of what certain stocks must meet by the end of the day. They are the way, if they are to stay in the way and the good graces of management. If they're not met, they may be sent on administrative leave. Prayers are, as I went over, certain amounts of things that you have to fill out. Forms, we already went over this. So office politics play a role. So depending on how the traders are doing and how their trades are trending, the office will be swayed more either towards Ursus or Taurus. This will make actions that create either a bear or bull market easier to get through, but will also make the inverse. So let's just say you're in a bear market, which means stocks are trending down, but a bull market, if you make actions that go through a bull market, they will be more impactful than normal. There'll be 3 gods, though more could be planned. We got Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, they'll have different abilities, that sort of thing. Core gameplay core gameplay loop. So we have trading begins, market opens, initial movements start in the market, traders start placing trades, gods start filling out forms, traders see the movement of their stock live, gods lose divine ink and see consequences throughout the course of the day. Black Swan event occurs at the 5-minute mark that radically moves a commodity independent of God's action. Loop repeats for the rest of the 10 minutes. I'm not exactly certain about how the minutes work, but exactly what I want the minute values to be, but I can foresee just sort of like Black Swan's happening. Day ends, game gives overall review of player performance. Strategy meeting begins before the next 2 minutes. Players review through tips and fill out compliance forms. Moment-to-moment gameplay. On a moment-to-moment basis, the traders must constantly monitor their balance, coordinate strategy to decide what they want to do next. On a moment-to-moment basis, the God player must monitor their prayer quota, monitor the markets, and fill out forms based on how they have been informed the players are doing. The actions that are available for the traders are filling out audit forms, placing trades, and coordinating with the other players to place trades. The actions available to God players are filling out forms, filling out prayers, and balancing that out with office politics. Audit forms cost the player time as they're meant to slow down the rapid trading. Trades cost money from the shared pool of the firm. Filling out form costs divide ink, eliminated a resource the God players have. Interaction forces. The market rapidly rises and falls on its own, but the action of the God player can dramatically affect it. And successful traders can also change how money flows because eventually there will be a sort of system where the market tracks how well the players are doing, and it's reason that other traders might want to catch up with that, but that wouldn't happen until like the 4th or 5th day. God's player goal is to prevent the traders from reaching their goal, but only has a limited amount of divine ink to fill out forms. At the same time, they're penalized by not using enough divine ink for filling out prayers or meeting quotas. We've already went over this. Prayers move the market on their own, and quotas mandate the market move a certain direction. Traders are incentivized to make drastic moves to meet their quota, but must balance that out with limited money pool and certain tips. These systems should create persistent anxiety that all players should feel in meeting their goal. Rules of play, so we have action limits. There's no formal action limits in the game, though the compliance form and resource constraint serve to slow down player actions. Resource constraint, God players have a certain amount of divine ink, and then like let's just say 50 milliliters. The smaller, the less impactful forms take up less. Fill out. The more impactful ones take more divine ink to fill out. And the really impactful ones, the special abilities, they take a tenth of your ink for the day. So use them wisely. No trade can use more than 1/10 of the total money pool. I did not put that in the prototype because I didn't know how to limit it. Environmental changes. The game changes environment throughout changes in the market. These are through either the game changes environment with changes in the market. I should just say, shouldn't have set the route with changes in the market. These are through either the intervention of the God player or the game generating events. Persistent effects. The persistent effects are the changes in the market and the resource constraints carrying over. Failure and consequence. Failure in the game looks like the traders not being able to meet their quota, or the God player failing to stop the traders to meet their quota. Failure in between days looks like not staying on pace to meet the quota, or allowing the traders to have a very good day. If the traders struggle between rounds, they gain access to loans that will add to their money pool, with the assumptions that they can pay back in the following rounds. If the gods struggle, they will gain more divine ink and access to more powerful forms. What happens after failure depends on who wins a week. If the traders win a week, the next week will be a larger quota than normal, while the God player has the same or greater access to powerful forms. If the God player wins the next week, they will have a failure screen, and their aesthetics will slightly change to reflect it being an alternate reality. They will then have a lower quota to meet, and the God player will have less access to powerful forms. There's no persistence between weeks, but between rounds, the resource constraints will persist. There will also be persistence of long-term trades such as puts or calls. If a God player harms a stock enough, they may no longer exist due to direct divine intervention or sustained downward trading leading to bankruptcy. God player helps a stock or commodity enough, they may begin to buy up competitors, which means forms may affect them less. Directional materials. Here's just some flow charts that I made earlier. So this is an example of how a daytime action for the God player may go. God player wants to crash oil market. Does he have divine ink? No. Okay. He needs to fill out the form. He fills out the form. He has a cooldown. There should be a cooldown right there. Fills out the form. Does the game AI like reasoning? No. Okay. Loses divine ink and reputation. It's just a waste of his time. And we're back to it. But maybe they do. Trader player gets Olympic oil, reports oil spill, and then the oil stock ticker crashes. The price of oil rises. Players and their investments react accordingly, and God player gains divine reputation. There may be a reputation system. I think the reputation system is just there may be like a directly visible reputation system, but I think I want to implement it as the reputation system just being the sort of conflict where if a God player is doing well, right, and it directly affects the players, and that's how they get their loans. That's divine reputation. There may not, it may be trackable, maybe not. Simplified game flow for how the trader player characters achieve victory. They gain information right or wrong. They use the information to invest throughout the course of the 10-minute period. Do them investments make money? The game offers an emergency loan since they're struggling relative to God player. They bounce back. Okay. Are they able to make enough money to pay off their goal from the game start? No. Game over, God wins. I should say yes. Game over, trader player's victory. So concept art, we got the logo concept art. This is supposed to play into the game's mythological aspects because it's a Greek mythical depiction of the Baron Bull, a term that appears in Wall Street as well. We got the God player perspective concept art. This shows the contrast of the game. It's supposed to be a lot less anxiety inducing for the God player, and it's supposed to be more frustrating because they are filling out forms in a sort of like cheery or just a cheery Olympic office where the players are constantly trading, constantly trying to predict the market. The trader player concept art, this shows how stressful the game is supposed to be. This is reinforcing the high risk, high reward playstyle and the persistent anxiety that I'm seeking for all players to have, but especially the traders. Test. My headset turned off. So this is a game over. This is a game over screen that is meant to feel as soul crushing as possible for the trader players. After risking it all, they've lost. And then I had the compliance officer concept art. Let me delete that. Whoopsie. As well. I didn't know how to really do it other than I think that it's the same sort of deal where it's supposed to be stressful. It's supposed to make you feel anxious. I forgot to put a description, but that's sort of the whole deal with this. Now, I did make a slight little prototype. So, we're just gonna... Alright. Put that up here. It's supposed to, be like, hey, let me buy some of the Athena Analytics, right? It's Greek gods. So we're gonna buy 8, and now we hold 8 stocks of that. Or let me go, I don't know, let's buy Poseidon Energy. Let's buy 8 stocks of that as well. Or maybe I buy Nike Armament. Buy 10 stocks of that. We have a starting pool of 100,000, and you see that it impacts our net worth. And oh, our guys have lost some money. They're down. Okay, well that's not good. Gee, let me, I don't know, short these guys, right? Let's buy 12 shorts. Let's see what 12 shorts looks like. Or a little bit more than 12 shorts. A lot of shorts. If these guys somehow, some way make money, we are in for a world of hurt. Okay, so it didn't actually matter that much, but yeah, we have still our net worth, and you know, it was an idea I had of how maybe this should work. I think it's kind of nifty. Let's see here. I don't know. Let's go buy this property. There's supposed to be a percent change, and I don't know why it's not displaying, because I had... But you see these tips up here, this is sort of what the normal players are supposed to get, right? But the insider, at the 10-second mark, he's going to actually have tips, and he's supposed to be like screaming them to, yeah, so he's supposed to be like screaming them to everyone else. It's like, we have this, and I don't know, let's just say, let's get the ERT. Oh, I missed it. But yeah, it tells you the day's news 10 seconds, the ticks news 10 seconds ahead. That sort of deal. I think it was kind of, just for a rough prototype, these are supposed to be, by the way, like what the God players are doing, right? Now, some of these tips are wrong, right? But I think it's just kind of nifty. All right. Well, hope you enjoyed my presentation. Sorry if it was a little rough around the edges, but I hope that thoroughly explained the concept of the game a little bit better.